Good morning, my fellow yogic travelers, my dharmic travelers. I'm mighty glad to be alive today, and I hope that you are too. I'm going to start a week of Michael Meade's teaching, a mythologist storyteller who's been very influential for me personally. And today we're going to discover aspects of his work on alchemy. As you know, alchemy was a symbolic lexicon of combining ideas and imagination that have to do with teaching you how to take the gunk of your personal life, turn the personal inertia, the lead of the psyche, as they would say, and turn it into gold. And the idea here is there's nothing to work on except the trouble that you've got. That's called the prima materia. So we ask you, what's the matter with you? The idea is like your wound, where you're hurting, is like a salt mine. If you lick it the right way, it'll give you the flavor of your own life and the endurance to live it. So in some way, our wounds are one of the things that are keeping us alive. Everybody has a limp that they're hiding, but that's where the real change can occur. So tolerance for that which is broken in you, the presence of what's unfinished and imperfect. So by uniting various opposite factors, we would say, you're able to bring out the hidden gems. Now, you have to grow to a point where your own ego's attitudes are challenged by the cultural beliefs, and they're too narrow for what you have inside yourself. You don't want credo to dominate libido, which is your energy of life, your vitality, the instinctive pull of your own strong desires. And that's the urge to create life. So although the individual gets disturbed by the neurosis of society, which tries to constrict your imagination, you have to remember you're not just a tabula rasa, you're not just a blank slate that's been born and now society fills in with you the nurture, but the nature aspect of yourself is in you to guide you, to recognize you have innate gifts, and that's where you want to go naturally. In other words, the genius is already there, and the various rites of passage hopefully gives you access to this treasure that's hard to attain. But if you'd find it, very often you need an inner teacher, the sage of your own heart, the symbol of your own inner ideal, the wise woman or the wise man that gives you courage to the part that wants to stick it out. And once you realize ego is not the center, and you revolve around something deeper than that, the great other, remembering that the real true disciple is an incarnation of the deity that they seek. So if you're going to find out your individuality, that undivided part of yourself, which still exists within the condition of inner division, everybody has these splits, how do you bring during the course of the day that quality of yourself, that uniqueness, into play? And of course the idea is to create. The thread of your own genius becomes visible when you attempt something creative. And in fact, creativity is the only outcome of conflict that is satisfactory. So if you're going to rise above, you have to remember that everybody has their own kind of suffering, everybody has their own cross to bear. It hurts. Pain hurts, there's no doubt about it. Can't get rid of it. Awareness hurts. But suffering is exact. Everybody has their own style, their own language, their own memories of it. They embody it in a different way, and their own healing path is different. So people complain because it's their ego resisting. It stays with the status quo, because in order for things to be different, it has to change. So real redemption comes in looking into the shadowy aspect of your own stuff and learning the capacity to deal with it and to help others. So, quickly stated, 3 of the teachings you might find in alchemical symbolism has to do with, number 1, what they call nigredo, the blackening, number 2, albedo, the whitening, and number 3, rubedo, the reddening. They can be in various proportions, and they don't happen necessarily sequentially, but I guess in one way you could say the nigredo is the dark place where you recognize that you have some despair, you recognize you have some powerlessness, you recognize you have some unworthiness, you recognize that there's inherent loss in human life, up into and including your own mortality and the death of other people in your life. And so that pulls you down. It's very, very dark. But the idea is that the albedo is the purification process, the whitening process, the clarification process, where you withdraw all the false ideas and projections on the world and other people, and you try to integrate your own issues. And without the purification, you can't clean up the act enough to see clearly what to do. And when you do a little purification, then you get to rubido, which is the reddening. But that's where you heat up the Bunsen burner, you turn up the experiment, you really do it to the max. You don't just dip your toes in it, you really dive right in. And of course, when you dive right in, what you're going to do is you're going to bring greater clarity and oomph. What's the difference between try and triumph? Oomph. Greater clarity and oomph into the working on the negredo, the dark stuff. And that's where you confront what we call the shadow issues. And the more you confront it, the more you're clear. And then you do more purification, more exercises, especially in the stories you hear about them, ironing, whitening, cleaning, sweeping up. And that brings you to a greater degree of commitment, because now you know what you're doing and you can see its benefit. And now you're no longer stuck in one way of thinking. You're no longer a monotheist. You recognize that there's many, many voices inside yourself. It doesn't make you schizophrenic. It's the multiplicities of your soul. You could say it's varieties of internal imagination. And if you're monotheistic, you just become a fundamentalist, where there's only one solution, only one possibility, no other possibilities are allowed. Everything is fixated. But in this world, things are moving, things are changing, possibilities abound, and I hope that you can find your own path to looking at the dark stuff, the negredo, that's the confused mass inside yourself. Start working on purifying your act, getting your shit together, as they say. That is the albedo, the whitening. And then the reddening is turn up the heat, do it for real. Come out of the closet and say, I'm living for spirit. I hope you find your own alchemical path.